They're literally missing the one bike that would be the most fun for the most people on the most trails. Most of us don't wear spandex, want to send it all, or eat rock gardens for breakfast. So what does Transition have for us?
In the development process, we literally have the bike slotted between the two bikes next to it. We got Spur on the left, Sentinel on the right. This is the Smuggler.
Now they have the all-new Smuggler, and I think it's their coolest bike yet.
Wanted to have something that was very much like a do-it-all mountain bike. Just a mountain bike for mountain biking. Not an enduro bike, not an XC bike, just a typical everyday trail riding mountain bike.
How many of you have crashed on your mountain bike? I'd be willing to bet it's most of you. And if you haven't, well, I've got bad news. It's only a matter of time. That's where I think I jinxed myself on that one. I have this brand new bike that I've been super excited to share with you all. What do I go and do? Smash myself into a tree.
I like how it's short travel. I know these guys. You guys filming or are you broken? Ooh, you didn't break your femur?
Honestly, that was my first concern.
Yeah.
Did I just break my finger? But I don't think I did.
You'd probably be more uncomfortable if you broke it.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident I did not.
I think he's broken his femurs. I assumed you guys were taking pictures when you're like hunched in the bushes. Or do you need it?
Now, despite this absurd looking bruise, I am okay fortunately, but I was not able to ride the bike for the video. That's okay, that works out for you guys because you get to watch our film guy. Do you prefer film guy? Filmographist?
Video guy.
Filmist?
Does that work?
Video guy. Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's good for you all though, because we get to watch Logan ride the bike, and he is phenomenally fun to watch.
Have you seen my computer?
Yeah, I grabbed it. Do you need it?
That'd be great.
Not only that, but he's owned a lot of bikes in this travel category, so he'll be able to give us some good feedback on how this long-awaited fan favorite stacks up.
Surprisingly lively. It has motivated me to pump harder, pedal harder in a lot of sections that I'd otherwise just be like kind of cruising. So I really have been enjoying what it gives back to me when I really put a lot of input into the bike.
Whole Foods.
I mean, $7 for 6 cookies.
We're just doing some modeling in here.
I don't know about all this. Dude,
that's
gnarly. Oh my god. That was when you were riding the other day?
Yeah, a week ago. Transition's a brand that's been near and dear to Fanatik's heart for a long time, not only because of its physical proximity to us. The majority of Fanatik's employees ride Transition bikes. But there's been a mysterious and massive hole in their lineup since 2020. If you're familiar with Transition's brand history, you'll remember that the first Smuggler, back there in orange, came about in 2014 when they moved from their long-standing modified single pivots to their current giddy-up 4-bar suspension design.
We had moved from a single pivot system to a horse link, so we started calling it a horse link. That's kind of where the whole giddy-up thing came from. It
was one of the first 29ers that was actually fun on gravity-oriented trail, when most longer travel bikes were actually 27.5. It got another update in 2018 to bring it up to a 120mm travel bike when Transition transitioned to speed-balanced geometry. But in 2020, they launched the all-new design language with the Scout, and the model disappeared from Transition's lineup. Where has it gone? Well, we're here talking with Sam today, one of Transition's longtime employees, to get the scoop on the bike and what they wanted to do when they relaunch it this year. The Smuggler disappeared from Transition's lineup for a couple of years there. Why did that happen?
To be honest, a lot of that comes down to sort of bandwidth and new products and things like that. A lot of energy went into coming out with the Spur, and we've had some updates to the Sentinel in the past years, and we kind of knew that we wanted a product in between those, but just for the sake of sort of spacing things out, we kind of let it take a break for a while. and then let the focus be on the other models, and then really come through with an all-new bike that slotted right in the middle, right where we wanted it.
Yeah.
And you know, I kind of wish we would have had it in the lineup the whole time, but there's only so much we can do. So it's back now. There's Billy coming out of the cave.
Hey, Billy.
Billy, get back to work. Nope. Okay, he said no. I'm not very good at enforcing these rules.
The bike's finished. It's good to go.
What do you got there, Logan?
First transition I've ever ridden. You want me to say what it actually is? Put this piece of tape on for safety. Wow. Okay.
When you said, all right, it's time to bring the Smuggler back, did you have any goals that went into that thought process? What were you trying to accomplish with that?
For sure, yeah. The original Smuggler was aluminum only. It's 115 millimeters rear travel, and I believe the stock fork was 130. We kind of wanted to beef everything up just a little bit, but keep the same like peppy character that the bike has always had. Wanted to have something that was very much like a do-it-all mountain bike, just a mountain bike for mountain biking. Not an enduro bike, not an XC bike, just a typical everyday trail riding mountain bike.
Yeah, that's something Logan and I have been talking about. We both spent time on the bike and how this is sort of the ideal bike for the majority of people on the majority of trails. How many rides have you been on this now?
I think this is my fifth ride.
You've been on a lot of bikes similar to this, right? Like owned a lot of bikes similar to this?
Since 2020, pretty much only bike has been the Santa Cruz Tallboy.
What was your sort of like first thoughts getting on this bike? Like right off the bat?
It immediately was like surprisingly comfortable. I mean, most bikes are pretty comfortable these days, but I rode a Spur for a very short bit, and it reminded me a little bit of that, like its liveliness, because I feel like when you hop on a Spur, they're like, whoa. I think this has a little bit of that inside of it. I really have been enjoying what it gives back to me when I really put a lot of input into the bike. Even like power wheelies, I've been like, wow, it's kind of fun to power wheelie through this dumb thing.
Wow.
I have a thing where I think of bikes as the category of the bike is based on Whistler percentage.
Yeah.
Or like a downhill bike is like 99% Whistler, an enduro bike's like 75% Whistler, and then something like this is like 25% Whistler, and a Spur is like 5% Whistler. Some new updates, especially around the head tube area. As you noticed, we did go to internal rear brake on this model. A lot of that was just about keeping everything as like tidy and like visually clean and integrated as possible. Especially now, like the number of bikes that are going to an Axis drivetrain, we didn't want to have any cable ports that are exposed in this sort of zone or anything that's not getting used. Fully guided cable routing in the front triangle actually passes into the rear triangle kind of in the main pivot area, so you don't see the rear brake or anything around the cranks or the derailleur cable. Gotcha. The guide tube sort of ends right in this zone, and there's a channel in the internal sleeve in the bottom bracket shell where you can kind of actually see and reach in there and everything.
Okay. So you'll, during bike assembly, before you put the bottom bracket in there, you'll help feed those through and get them in. Got it. With the cable entry sort of at the front of the head tube. As opposed to previously, it was more in this area.
Right? And same thing with everything kind of getting tidier. We didn't want to go to something like through the headset cable routing or anything like that that's nice and controversial, but this brings a lot of the like, just keeping everything tidy and close, really like cleans everything up. And so with that, with the guide tubes, we have a drop-in bearing headset now. We had to kind of do that in order to enable, in the manufacturing process, the guide tubes actually going to the front of the head tube.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's part of it. Dude, it's all in my ear. Product
I felt
testing.
sick though.
Did you hit that tree?
I don't really know what happened.
You told us you gravitate towards these like shortish mid-travel bikes, like 120, 130 mil travel bikes. What leads you in that direction? Why do you tend to gravitate toward these medium, shorter travel bikes?
Because I feel like they're more fun on most trails. Steeper, gnarlier trails are more fun on a short travel bike than a long travel bike is on your general everyday, like nicer flow trails.
That makes sense. Basically what I'm getting is that it seems like it ups your fun level the majority of the time you spend riding.
Exactly. There'll be like one section of one trail where I'm like getting my brain rattled and I'm like, okay, it'd be cool to have, you know, 170 bike right now. You feel like, but like that's so minimal, I find. And so I'm saying all the trigger phrases, but it is true.
No, I agree with you 100%.
That's so dumb.
I liked it.
Okay, I'm gonna go the other line.
I'm thinking about going with one of these kind of colors.
Earth tones.
More of this like odd
Skin.
like bad Band-Aid color,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Darren, what's your role here at Transition?
Industrial design, graphics, colors, pretty much all like the concept design, product design, form language, all the creative stuff
Cool.
in terms of product.
How long have you been working on what the look of this thing?
I would say in general, it's usually about 2 years. Depending on the complexity, e-bike projects and stuff like that may take a little bit longer, but Smuggler, we kind of knew what we were doing. We did do some new stuff, but for the most part, it's around 2 years. I think overall, it's just like, I think it's the most refined mountain bike we've done so far, kind of back to the fully internal routing. Just like the lines of this bike are very clean and simple, and like I think the proportions are really balanced. Tweaking on the form language that we've already developed, it's just kind of refining everything's kind of like refined. I think this is just like the best overall, at least from an industrial design standpoint, like mountain bike that we've done, and I've been riding this bike, so I think it is like a really just well-rounded, perfect, just mountain bike.
This is my first time riding this bike on jumps, really, and I've been constantly surprised. It's like, it just like, it floats. I feel like I'm not going fast enough. I put a crank in and then pull, thinking I'm not going fast enough, and then just go way further than like on some bikes than I would.
Yeah.
Oh, that felt fun. That was great.
Good?
Yeah, it felt really nice. It honestly feels so good on jumps.
Sweet.
Like pushing into the lips.
Smuggler has a high amount of progression, 27% rate change, where it's spec'd with volume spacers in the shock. You have room to go up or down and make it even rampier if you want, or less. With the stock Flodex shock, it's actually super simple. You just let the air pressure out and then drop the air can, and there's just 2 bolts, pull the spacer out, and that'll bump the travel. The 50 mil stroke gets you 130. If you take that out, the travel would be 140.
Cool. Actually, one question I had, I know on the Spur, you went with this flex stay, that's a 120 mil travel frame. Here you've gone with the pivots on the seat stay. How did that choice come about?
Yeah, we
Could
definitely
you have done flex stays on here?
We debated that topic quite a bit, actually. We were kind of right at the point where this amount of travel is about as much as you can really get away with the flex stay. But we also had a more affordable aluminum frame option in the lineup, and that really can't be done in flex stays, at least in a durable way.
Yeah.
Because we really like that compliance that the Spur has, how it like just snaps out of corners and like loading those stays up without having that pivot kind of like rockets those out of corners if you're cornering properly. So we're trying to get that characteristic into this bike. So there was some cool stuff that we messed around with, like doing stiffer and like trying to find that sweet spot, being able to like get a flexier probably stay with the bridge and the pivot than we typically do. So you wouldn't notice the difference visually. It's all like in the layup of like the direction of the carbon fiber, the weave, how much you're doing, the type that they're using. Like there's quite a bit that goes into it actually.
I see here, it looks like you may have designed in like a water drainage port.
Yeah, it was kind of like throwing around some concepts of how to kind of get rid of that loam swimming pool kind of thing. So, and it ends up being for a small of, if it is an issue for whatever complaint that people have about it, like doing something like this would kind of like the negative impact of it wouldn't really be worth it just from a structural standpoint.
This feature sucks.
Oh,
I'm gonna have a word with this trail builder.
I'm doing this selfishly.
How so?
I just don't want the water to splash on me.
It's really like sort of a precise, fast, nimble, quick handling, just a lot of fun. That kind of like riding style really rewards somebody that's active and really like plays with the bike and knows what they're doing on the trail.
Maybe.
Weight is for us is never like the number one priority. Sure. We made choices like a reservoir shock, like that's heavier than an inline shock, but the performance advantage is huge. Even things like user friendliness, like guide tubes actually add weight, but keeps everything quiet and easy to work on. It still comes in at 3,000 grams with the rear shock. So it's pretty competitive in that sort of like mid lightweight category, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And this bike would be a perfect match for a do-it-all bike and those sorts of places that don't have maybe quite as aggressive riding as we have here. Yeah. And then for the local market, this is definitely a really good complement to somebody that might have also something like a Spire.
Yeah.
It's a good two-bike mix. You have something that's light and peppy, fast and fun, and something that's really like capable, burly, big bike.
I think for most people, it's like the perfect solution for most riding needs.
And even
here, I've been riding it like on most of our pretty gnarly trails, and it'll like you got to be a little more selective on your lines, but it'll get the job done for sure.
And not everybody is looking to scare themselves silly every ride they go on, so they're gonna have more fun on the average ride
for
on a bike like this.
Yeah.
Wow, I've always thought about that and have never actually gone for it.
Well, Sam, I think that's all I have for you. So thanks so much for making the time for us. And
No problem.
we love the bike. So
Awesome.
cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It looks like someone's done it.
I don't know what he's doing.
I got some here. This is pretty okay.